Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, excellent. Michael, thank you, sir, for taking a minute out. It's wonderful to meet you.
Yes, it's wonderful to meet you as well, and looking forward to a great conversation.
Me as well. So let's begin our journey into your work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was throwing so many things into different places.
Yeah.
How did you survive the 2020 pandemic, and how much of living through that has come into your life today?
Well, excellent question because it was a formative experience. And I will say that a lot of my family members have a background in healthcare, and my mom, and she was more into folk remedies than the pharmaceutical industry that she had at the hospital around her. So even as children, um, she had we could say she had an aversion to all things pharmaceutical, even as a nurse. So when all of this stuff came, also the where we live is very libertarian minded
Yeah.
and very freedom minded. So it was a challenge. There was a lot of negativity. I didn't wear masks when I went into stores. That got me into some heated discussions with older people who there's a lot of government employees where we were living at the time. And then I had an assignment to go to Ottawa to cover the trucker rally there for 2.5 weeks. And that was a marvelous and monumental experience. And I'm still friends with people that I met at what we considered the Freedom Rally. And it was a delightful experience for everyone who was there until the law enforcement showed up and just about got maced. I think some divine intervention and the hand of the Lord prevented that spray from coming because my other reporter, camera op guy, he was watching me from another direction, and I was going up and down the line with my camera talking. We were um, doing live streams, a lot of live streams, and I met some phenomenal people. So then we come home, and I got to work from home significantly because we were federal. We're working in broadcasting. We're a federally mandated industry here in Canada, and so we got to work from home a lot, which was very productive. And I enjoyed it. Eventually we had to go back to the office. And
Yeah.
that was much to the chagrin of everyone, I would say. Yeah.
So let's get into what you do right now for a
Mhm.
living. And to do that, kids always get the truth out of us. It's 12-year-old kids. You walk into the room, it's
Yeah.
career day, and they're like, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, I used to be a senior broadcast producer, but I think I got a little too expensive, as you do when you're being promoted over the course of your career. And eventually they're looking for someone to let go, and they start at the higher income levels. So I do some woodworking, and my wife and I do 5 a.m. podcast and building that. We kind of feel like the little duck that you see on the pond. He looks really still, like he's not doing a whole lot, but his feet are going like this. So that's how we
Love
feel.
that.
And yeah, so between the woodworking and the podcasting and writing, working on some books and some goal setting journal, that pretty much sums it up for us.
So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? Was it always
Oh, a
broadcasting?
cowboy.
Okay. All
I
right.
think I was leaving the cowboy phase, but I had this probably unrealistic love for television and movies.
Yeah. What was your favorite show or movie, or what prompted you? Who was
Oh,
a hero that got you in that industry?
the Wild Wild West. I think the guy that played Batman was in that, and we had a TV station that showed all these old black and whites. And so Saturday afternoons, we if or Sunday afternoons, I should say, we were growing up on a farm, so we had a lot of chores.
Yeah.
But we had our day of rest on Sundays. And so those afternoons of watching the old time movies like Elvis and other things like that. And then the other fellow would be Knowlton Nash. He did the Canada's national news for the CBC. And Knowlton Nash was a fixture in homes. And just being able to see him broadcasting and sitting at the desk. And yeah, yeah, that's a good to take that trip down memory lane.
Yeah, for sure. There's this idea when people get into broadcasting of what that career and what the
Mm,
inside's going to look like, and it's
yeah.
pretty glorified. Then there's the reality of it. So
Yes.
when you really got in there, what was the biggest difference between your idealized version of that career and what
Mm.
actually happened?
uh, the pressure and the need for organization and
Yeah.
the precision to be organized. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember at one point I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and I remember I kind of scratched the surface and got on the inside, and it is a lot different. There's a lot of things on the
Mhm.
back end that people don't realize. But I
Yeah.
remember one time I was going to do some weekend work. I live in downtown Kansas City, and I was going to do the graphic design, the
Okay.
chroma key stuff.
Yep.
And there was about four of us, and we were all young. And I remember we walked through and did a tour, and one of the producers lost his mind. Something happened on the air, and he just absolutely went ballistic. And there was just other things. And I remember I got three-quarters of the way through the interview, and I looked at the people with me. I said, "Don't worry about me. I'm not doing this. I'm out. I'm not gonna." But that's another part of it. It's a pressure
Hmm.
cooker. There's
Oh.
so, I mean, the deadlines and everything that you got to go through. I mean, it will either clog your arteries or clean them
Hmm.
out.
Yes, and there was a significant amount of smoking indoors. And the smoke 'em if you got 'em was a common phrase. And I had years later, and alcohol and drugs. I did do stage work with my local IATSE union, which I absolutely loved. That was the pharmaceutical side. The TV broadcast side was definitely alcohol. And there was Larry Christie. He was a very well-known broadcaster in
Yeah.
our region, and he and I were talking because my wife's dad's cousin was instrumental in a lot of the AA groups in different parts of Western United States and Western Canada. And so Larry knew Cease. And so we were chatting about that. And he said, Michael, I'm thinking back to those old days. He said, I bet you everyone on my staff was actually a member of my AA chapter. And I was like, well, so much for the anonymous part. But
Right.
but that was just par for the course. And like, how else do you deal with the executing well in broadcasting without a way to handle the stress and the fine details and the pressure? Because you really are only as good as your last show. I found that out a time or two. Yeah.
What was one of your favorite stories to cover?
Um, well, for sure the Freedom Rally
Yeah.
in Ottawa, but I loved producing horse racing
Okay.
because I did a lot of sports. I did a lot of college, junior A hockey and hockey tournaments and things like that. But there was something, we did rodeo as well, but there's something for me being around the horse racetrack. And it's probably because when I was very young, my dad had a friend that raced horses. And so my dad would take me or maybe my older brother, but I remember him taking me over to the farm site where his friend lived, and we'd get the buckboard ready and we'd get the horses groomed up. And so maybe psychologically somewhere deep back in the filing cabinet of my brain, there's some good fond memories from my childhood, but I love being around the racetrack and the horses. Yeah.
We did at one point have horse racing in Kansas City,
Mm.
but the precursor to the big gambling mecca was this place called the Woodlands, and it was greyhounds. and
Oh.
and that was fascinating. I remember going out and seeing that. And the other thing about it was, now that I think about it, I haven't thought about this for a while. What made it even extra special was the precursor to the WWE, the wrestling. We
Mm.
had like a lower grade wrestling, and there was all these people like Harley Race, and even Ric Flair came through, and they were all of
Wow.
these glorified dudes, but they all worked security. They retired, so it
Wow.
was like dog racing and all these old
Crazy.
wrestlers. It was a wonderful environment, man.
Oh man, that would have been that would have been great. It really is about the like the French style of painting, trompe l'oeil, to fool the eyes,
Yeah.
and just the magic of it all. It didn't do anything negative to me when you think of how everything is just somebody's story and it's put together and nothing is real, but the eye believes it's real. And man, it was just wonderful. And even like your story, what you're describing about the those older wrestling celebrities is just kind of like, thank you for what you did for me.
Yeah, exactly. One of my best friends, his name is John Bedoin. He's been in journalism his whole life. He was my editor when I wrote in
Mm.
college, and we've been good friends. He told me one of the most fascinating things he ever covered were PBA tour events,
Oh,
pro bowling, and was like,
wow.
you have no idea what these guys live through. Some of them live in their cars. They look
Wow.
wonderful on camera, but it's just a really eclectic motley lot of guys that travel the globe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So,
would be fascinating.
yeah, yeah,
Fascinating. And
totally.
That was the other thing that I really loved about broadcasting is all the free swag we got.
Yeah,
And we never um I there was a number of I took a few years off just for a self-imposed stress break.
yeah,
But then my wife and I commented about, wow, we don't get to go anywhere anymore because we would get tickets to like jazz festivals and
uh-huh.
games. We never paid for hockey games or football games or anything like that. We just walk in with our tags and then you get out of that for I don't know, 8 months to a year, and you're like, wow, man, I need my job back just so I can get my free swag.
It's the fringe benefits because at the end of the day, when you
Hmm.
think about what
Yeah.
you actually get paid and the fact that you get to go
Yes.
experience that, it's
Hmm.
indispensable,
Oh yeah. The
you know.
experience is just one for the record books, really.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, what an interesting podcast. How did it come about? How has it evolved? How has it gotten to this point
Mm.
where it's grown? What was kind of the nexus to now?
Yes. Well, when I was a young boy, my parents made sure we were always going to church, and I heard about this guy named Barnabas from the Bible,
Yeah,
but he was called the son of encouragement. And I was like, I could do that. Yeah, I could be an encourager.
yeah.
And then, you go through like the ringer of life and you find out some obstacles and you don't realize the obstacles aren't in my way, they are in my way. But could sure use like a little bit of a pat on the back instead of a smack in the face life. But it's kind of like life's job is to smack you in the face, and the people that God and life bring around you are the ones that are either going to help with the slapping in the front or the back. And so we kind of, my wife and I were in this spot where we wanted to do something, we wanted to encourage people, and we thought, how can we do this in a way that promotes this freedom loving mindset, this entrepreneurial lifestyle that we love so much. And so 5 a.m. podcast was brought. I'm an early riser. I like being up in the morning, and it was a cool sounding name. And I don't always get up at 5 a.m., but it's lovely to be able to get up and get working and to have that mindset that I'm going to go seize my day. And we just wanted to share that with other people. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Who
Mm.
was your hero? Like an
Oh,
inspirational force that has allowed you to grow through your various roles and to evolve into who you are as a human now?
boy, that's a good question. I would say my maternal grandfather, we called him Paka. That's grandfather in the Frisian language. And for him, he was the youngest boy in the family. And he decided after World War II to move to Canada. And his first job, like you got to think, like this is like kind of a bravado, gruff, muscular guy. His first job when he gets to Canada is working for some other Dutch people that owned a laundromat. And he didn't let that stop him. He
Yeah.
kept on going. He told me the first day he was there, it's kind of so Dutch people and especially the Frisians that I know, um, they like to have these plaques up on the wall all over the place with little sayings on it. And this saying absolutely describes our family. It says it doesn't matter if the bull shits or the cow shits, it just has to be cleaned up. And so my Paco was telling me about this first time that his first day on the job, he's told he's got to load the washing machine, and he grabs this big pile of laundry. He doesn't know yet about not mixing whites and colors. Well, apparently there's red socks in this pile that he throws in of white clothes, and everything came out pink. And that was they didn't fire him, but I would say that he's got that role of one of the people that fill that role of heroes because of what he saw a vision, and he didn't let things stand in his way. He accomplished what he succeeded to do, and he lived to 98 and
Wow.
had to stop riding his bicycle when he was about 95 because they didn't want him falling off and breaking a bone. And yeah, that's
So that's fascinating. So let me ask you this. In the realm of when you get your head back into that broadcast realm, who
yeah.
would be a dream interview? Somebody you would love to interview that you maybe you did and you want to talk
Mm.
about it, or someone that you would like to.
Well, I did do camera for Bill Cosby when before all his bad things happened, or he stopped paying his money, so the news came out. But so I got to hang out with Bill. which was a childhood dream of mine for sure. I'd also got to work with Tony Robbins as a camera op. I would say if we could bring MJ back from hiding or from the dead, I'd love to interview Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably I know that I would love to interview Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah. That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this. What is the motivator for you to do this work that you do? What gets you up every day? What is it that consistently allows you to take care of your soul and
Mm.
to do your job at the best? I mean, even before in broadcasting and now
Hmm.
in your podcasting world, what is that for you?
Oh, certainly my faith in Jesus Christ. That's number one. That keeps me going, lights the fire that I need. But just being able to impart uh, what God has given me, what through the positives and the negatives, through the ups and downs, the times where you like would love to cry on your mom's shoulder and say, "I can't do it anymore." To which, if I did that, I know my mom would say, "Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Get out. What are you doing?"
Yeah, for
That
sure.
that door swings both ways. So yeah, those things and just my family upbringing of persistence and do the hard work first. Because my parents had that as a rule
Yeah.
of no fun until all the work is done. I'm pretty sure they found extra work
Uh,
after we thought we were all done. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight and you ran
Mm,
into the 18-year-old version of you and you could give that young version of you a piece
mm.
of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give that young version of you?
I'd say keep going, regardless of how hard or easy it is. There's a lot of people that you can help one way or another, and people that you'll never meet that you'll help. And then you have your heavenly reward, which is far more important. So keep going and enjoy how difficult it is because that's what gives us strength.
Do you miss that broadcast world?
Oh, uh, I would say yes without hesitation. And I'm definitely getting a lot of great all those endorphins that I got out of the high stress and out of all the craziness that was going on around me. Um, I'm still getting that just at a different way and a degree. But man, would I love to go back and produce some more football games or some hockey broadcasts? Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, I came from that era, and I know we're probably in the same ilk here
Hmm.
of like the 80s before
Yes.
podcasting got out there. You had very few voices, very few ways to produce and put material out for the masses.
Hmm.
Isn't the world of podcasting such a refreshing
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's such a great realm, and there's so much good. It's like the media has this tendency of painting everything being black and white. But
Yeah.
when you get into podcasting, you realize not only is there gray matter and we're all much more alike, but
Yeah.
there's all these wonderful ventricles of
Hmm.
story and thought that just make life that much more interesting.
Yeah. So what I love podcasting and I would ride my bicycle into town to go work at the TV studio. So I was an early adopter of podcasts. And I had stuff in my ear, but I got to tell you about my friend Tinkerbell. So he was a guy that we both worked on the same movies together. And you got to think, okay, so Tinkerbell, and me coming from a devout Christian background and mindset, man, I loved hanging out with that guy. And that's what I look at podcasts like is there's so many different shades of color, and you can just find the reality of conversations
Yeah.
and we're told you have to be on this wing of the bird or that wing of the bird or you got to pick this color and you can't like that team, you got to like this team. But with podcasts you can just pick your flavor and you develop these relationships with the hosts and with the listeners. And it's like I was talking to another a fellow I know about this very subject, and I said, hardly anybody goes to the pub anymore.
Right.
It's not like it was in our grandparents, parents' generation and those before them. And now podcasts are kind of like that neighborhood pub, except you're doing it from home, and the people you get to meet are those that you never expected to come across.
Yeah, that is such a great way of looking at it. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
If you were to get into a room of people that are still in broadcasting or recovering
Mm.
broadcasters, and you
Yeah.
could tell them one fun story about being in the industry, just an
Oh
amazing,
man.
unexpected adventure that would just
Yes.
get them just enthralled. What would that story be?
Oh man. Okay, I got a great one. So one of the things, it's broadcasting adjacent.
Yeah.
I was working with my IATSE union, and I'm sure the NDA doesn't have anything to do with this at all anymore. But so at the back of our auditorium had this long hallway, and we had these two bathrooms at the end. And most of us IATSE guys would use, the men's or the women's bathrooms at the end of the hallway. And we were setting up for a magician, and I wasn't on the load team. So as you know, union jobs, which as you should, they're everything. You work where you're supposed to work, and you don't go where you're not supposed to go. I get it.
Yes.
So I was going down to the washroom, and I didn't realize they had started unloading the truck already. I was up in the load gallery. So my partner and I that were in the load gallery, we were kind of separated from everybody else. So I'm in the bathroom, and I hear the shower running, and I kind of peek in. It's the woman's washroom, and I thought, well, that's kind of odd. But there's plastic everywhere, like the floor. It's taped up the walls. I thought, boy, that's a strange sight. So I go back up, and Xander, my load gallery partner, goes down to use the washroom, and he comes up, and he has this extremely puzzled look on his face, and he did a lot of pharmaceuticals and other things, uh, you know, anyway, so Xander gave a strange look. So a strange look coming from Xander. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is you got to pay attention when he had a strange look on his face. And I was like, "What's going on?" And he said, the shower was running downstairs, right?" And I said, "Yeah, it was kind of weird." And he said, "Yeah, I poked my head in the door." I was like, "You did?" Yeah, and it's like there's a duck in the shower. I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, I poke my head in, Michael, and I see the shower curtain is half drawn. There's no lady in there. There's no guy. And he says, this duck peeks its head around the corner of the shower curtain and looks at me like this and goes back to his shower. Anyway, so part of the magician trick was that there was two ducks involved in
Yes.
something coming up, and they put the ducks in the shower. So that was a great story that I
That's
love
awesome.
remembering.
I
Yeah.
love it. So let me ask you this. What was the first podcast you listened to where you loved it, got addicted to it,
Oh,
and thought, man, I wanted this makes sense.
yeah. Higher Side Chats with Greg Carlwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's another guy, Keith Moore, minister guy, Faith Life Church in Missouri, in the Ozarks, somewhere around there.
Interesting.
But yeah, definitely the Higher Side Chats.
Okay. I'll have to look into it. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this. Of everything that you've done and evolved into at this point in your life,
hmm
what are you the proudest of?
Mm. What I'm doing, I would like to say what I'm doing right now, but um, there's a lot of other stuff along the way. My wife and I used to talk because we don't have children. I would often talk about how the stuff I'm producing is like our children,
Yeah.
and they kind of take off. But I would say definitely 5 a.m. podcast. Really stoked and jazzed about that. But man, just being able to do music shows and oh man, all the people you meet
Yeah.
through life, and just the larger than life people becoming humans in front of you.
Especially in America with everything getting sideways, especially being in Canada, you
Mm,
just have to be looking down thinking what's going on. And we are too. I am. But I think that when I look at this world of podcasting and the amount of people that are amazing, that are
mm.
doing amazing things, like I have the jazz radio show and then I do
Yeah.
famous interviews. It's like there's so many great humans that are really synergistically
Yes.
adding to such a great, vibrant planet. Just
Yeah.
restores my faith in humanity.
Yes. Where we can just all get along. And so speaking of jazz,
Yeah.
I love jazz. That's like my number one go-to music.
Yeah.
And that was how I beat the stress of my job. Is everyone that came into my office or around the doorway knew Michael was going to have jazz playing. And honestly, if I could have brought my record player over and set up some actual good speakers instead of just the phone, I would have done it for sure. Yeah.
There was a gentleman from Hawaii. I used to joke around in my 20s when I'd sit around the table in the pub with my friends and have beers, and I'd say, I really at that point in my life knew I wanted to do two things: have a jazz show, which was
Uh,
way far away from me. I had no idea,
yeah.
and then said I want to live in Hawaii. So I happened to get a guy that's a construction gentleman. He puts together big houses in Hawaii, and we interviewed.
Mm.
And he loved the show, and he reached out and we interviewed, and he was telling me that he does things differently with his crew. And one of the things that he does is he always plays jazz when they do bathroom refinements,
Wow.
caulking and all of that. It just puts him in the mood. And it was fascinating how he
Wow.
used music to kind of get to that chi, that place in him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I have it playing all the time myself.
There's nothing quite like it, and I don't really like the vocals on jazz.
Me neither.
I listen to it just for the melodies and the music of it all.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's exactly what I do too. In fact, I always feel weird because I'm like, once the singing happens, I'm like, I
Mm,
gotta go. I gotta get out.
yes, I'm
You
out.
know,
Yeah.
I'm out.
I kind of feel like it's, and we can talk about jazz music later, but
Yeah,
it's just so there's something about that particular genre where you enter into the music.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends,
Mm,
fans, everyone that you've worked with and that you know, but you run the show. You have a
mm.
perception of you. Who do you think you are?
Oh, well, I'm a person that thinks out of the box and tries not to have a 5 second or 2 minute attention span. Sticking with things has always been a challenge for me. So, I've learned that my success comes from thinking differently than others
Yeah,
and enjoying the the mundane, but also the adventure of the unknown, and that doesn't scare me. It used to scare me when I was younger, but
yeah,
you put away those childish things and just embrace what it is and enjoy I'm a guy that definitely enjoys every single moment. And if I'm not enjoying it, I tried playing a video game on Sunday because it was raining, my, and my wife was like, Okay, Michael's doing this," and I was like, "Sorry, I can't just walk around the wasteland of a game that I used to love because I've evolved, I've changed,
yeah.
and I'm happy with that."
I know the feeling. I totally do. So, if anyone wants to tune into the podcast, any of your
Mm,
other good work, see your historical work, any of the good
yeah,
business, where do they go?
5ampodcast.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Michael, what a joy, man. Thank you so much. It's great to meet you. We should pick it back up on a separate occasion and talk jazz
Yes, I would love that.
because this was great. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir. I
Looking to
appreciate
get
it.
new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.